Mike's Daily Podcast.
I didn't do it. I didn't do a super secret Sunday show. I'm so sorry. I didn't do it. I couldn't do it. I will explain why, but we have today John Deere, the engineer, Floyd, the floor man, Shelley Schuhart. I'm Mike Matthews, broadcasting from Café Anyway, located somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth. I hope you had a great St. Patrick's Day. It's a holiday that commemorates people that like to wear green and that think that they're from Ireland.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
A very cold country, very green country, thus the green and the Emerald Isle and all that. But let's sing the song.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I got to see Jeff and Sylvia and Kevin, and we were at the Doolittle that's in Podcastro Valley, and you might want to whittle on the front porch of the Doolittle. No, you can't, because there's really no room. It's like everything else in Podcastro Valley. Everything's boom, 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 right on top of each other. There is no space left.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I walked by a house that was for sale, or a property that was for sale. That's tiny property, and
Mike's
they said on the sign,
Daily
"This is available
Podcast
for 3 houses.
Yeah!
You can build 3 houses here." And the property was tiny. I'm like, how are you going to do that? Oh, wait, this is the Bay Area. This is California. We build on top of each other, build things. That is how it was in Ventura. They would build on top of other houses, like on cliffs. And then these houses would fall down the cliffs and people would die. And one time, look who just walked in, one of the holes they dug to put the pylon to hold up the house, the deck, someone fell into the hole, died, and everybody forgot about him for like weeks. Yeah, that happened about over 10 years ago. Look who walked in.
Hello, Mike Matthews. That's Shelley Schuhart, the gift shop supervisor, and that was like really like scary and stuff. Why did you bring that up?
Just the absurdity of it all. Pure absurdity. Look who else walked in. Oh my, this is Floyd the floor man! And this is John Deere. John Deere, the engineer, that guy that plays the organ, interrupted me. He just was a little off on his cue, on his mark, where he plays. Yeah, that's, I guess, well, something that Kevin brought up.
And here's today's podcast picture.
Wait a minute. First off, we have to look at the podcast picture, and wait a minute. Oh my gosh, I am so sick of Ramen Records. Ramen freaking Records keeps liking tweets that I post, but the only reason why they're doing it is so that if you're looking at my Twitter feed, or if I am looking at the Twitter feed and I go, oh, who liked me? And I click on the thing, I see a commercial for stupid Ramen Records on Twitter. I'm so fed up with them, and I even tweeted back at them, stop it. I don't have musicians on my show anymore. I don't play music on my show anymore. I'm done with that. I kept getting dinged by stupid YouTube, and then I would make, arrangements to have the musician on, and they would blow me off, or I would have them on, and then they wouldn't even promote the show that they were on, the podcast they were on, to their followers. It was ridiculous. It was a waste of my time. And yeah, I got to hear some great music, and I got to pay homage to some musicians and bands that I enjoyed. And you can hear all those interviews at mikesdailypodcast.com. You'll see the little interviews, places to click, A through Z. And I'm done with it, though. Somebody, Angela Mastrogiano, I can't say her name. Did you notice that? She promotes a lot of bands in the Bay Area. And she got me in touch with some cool people like D. Edward and Jenna Lavoie, who I interviewed like 5 years ago, and Illogisticals, some resource something, and the Go Ahead. Who else did she put me in touch with? Oh, Constant Coogan, some interesting bands, some nice people. Really, all of them super nice people, the best. But I get dinged. I'm sick of it. I hate getting dinged by stupid YouTube. and just and Angela would promote me, but it was just annoying. There was this one guy that used to would do what Angela did and promote her bands and her records to me, his records, his artist roster to me, and they all sucked. Oh, they were so bad. And I would, after, I was being nice. The problem is I can't say no. I have a tough time saying no. And sometimes I say no and people don't hear me saying no because I never say no. So they're like, oh, you just said yes, right? I said no. No. Do you have that thing that wakes you up or keeps you up in the middle of the night where it's called your taken advantage of portfolio that runs through your head and you go, oh boy, that person took advantage of me. That person took advantage of me. That person on the road took advantage. I saw a guy yesterday on my way home, and I don't drive very far to my weekend job. My weekend job, which is falling apart, which is the guy there has his philosophy of when things break down at the radio station is the same philosophy I have when things break down at my house. I put it off. The only problem is he takes advantage of me because I did this stupid workaround all weekend because something he didn't fix. And if it's going to be like this every weekend, I don't think I can do this job anymore. I'm so sick of... It's like little bits of things start to pile up at that job. I was supposed to be able to do my podcast yesterday, my Super Secret Sunday show, and I couldn't because he's got all these little things, these little minutiae that I had to do and keep on top of when I first started there, he had all these mechanics all this electronic stuff that took care of all this already. And now I have to do it, and it's ridiculous. Ugh, I'm getting sick of it. I feel better about explaining all these things. There's a doorknob on one of the doors of my house that's broken, and I won't replace it because I don't really need that. There's already a security door in front of that door that works perfectly, that keeps the house safe. And so that doorknob was just, as soon as I put a new one in there, it's going to break down. But it is kind of funny because the doorknob really is not even in the slot. It's kind of moving around like a joystick. And my roommate's so nice, he hasn't said a darn thing about it, but yeah, that's how I am. And the things that need to be repaired, I take care of. Water heater, refrigerator, roof falling down. I take care of that. But like the tree in the front yard that's falling apart, that's not in anyone's way, that's not going to hurt anyone on the street, that idiot that keeps showing up, the tree man, going, I'll cut down your tree. And he reeks of cigarette smoke and looks like he just crawled out of the gutter, and he's, he probably lives in my gutter, I guess. I should feel bad about that. But you know what? That's how things are in Castro Valley. Things are on top of each other. That's the way they built it. So I told him no. But see, people take advantage of you. It's nuts. And it kind of goes back to the movie Network, where the guy said, I'm not going to take this anymore. And you just have to say,
it's time to stop, okay? No more.
What?
No more.
What?
No more.
No more. No more. I don't care anymore. You hear me? I don't care no more. No more. There was a band called Haim. That's an all-female band. And they're very attractive young ladies that are very talented. And they actually copied the drum to that song, that Phil Collins song. Here, this came out last year. Here, you're going to hear the drums right here. That's the same drum too. I don't care anymore. But they love the 80s. That's how they are. There's a lot of 20-somethings love the 80s. I've been invited to go see the Depeche Mode tribute band called Strangelove. And I might be seeing that with Sylvia and her husband, Jeff. But Kevin, back to their friend Kevin, I hung out with them on St. Patrick's Day. All right, just a tiny bit of Irish music to get you in the mood, take you back to Irish St. Patrick's Day. Yay, God, I got so sick of that. I heard that all night long. Yeah. I can take about that much of that. I can take about that much. And then I'm done. But Kevin said, hey, the reason why the flu was so bad this year was because we are using we have not built up our immunities anymore. We clean our hands with that antibacterial crap. And hey, I just got a text from Megan over on the East Coast, who I met. I don't know if you remember this story, but back in October, I took my dog, Basil the Boxer, to Half Moon Bay. And there was a girl standing on the beach as the sun was setting. And she goes, oh my God, is that a boxer? And I said, yeah. And she said, oh, and Basil was kind of playing around. And I'm talking to her, Megan, and she was visiting from the East Coast for her job. And she was about to fly back that night. All of a sudden, we look down and Basil's peeing on her leg. And it's, what the heck, Basil? And in fact, I was at a dog park in Podcastro Valley, Fairmont Ridge, where I saw Mark, who may be listening to this show right now, because he asked me, hey, you do a podcast? What's it called? I said, Mike's Daily Podcast. He goes, what? I tried to make the name as simple as possible. I probably made it too simple. It's Mike, because I'm Mike, Daily, because it's daily, and it's a podcast. So I tried to make it as simple as possible. And it's been that name since 2011. But Megan just texted me, and she's got 2 dogs. So Basil peed on her leg. This is back in October. And she said to me, oh, don't worry about it. And then we exchanged information, and then she texted me when she got to, I think she flew into Pittsburgh, and she goes, I still have Basil's pee on my leg. So we've been texting back and forth, and she said, took Lucy and Ethel to Doggy Park. That's her 2 beagles. Lucy and Ethel. Yes, you know the show that's from. It's from Cheers. No, it's from I Love Lucy. Took Lucy and Ethel to Doggy Park yesterday and met another pup, Basil. What? And she even included a basil emoji, which looks kind of like a pot plant. It's a little bit like a pot plant. And she said, pronounce the same way that I pronounce the pot plant. All right. I pronounced Basil's name, Basil, and spelt the same way, as in Basil Rathbone. Where are my pictures of you boys in your Shamrock Green? Oh, shoot, I didn't take a picture of us in our Shamrock Green. Shoot. Sorry, Megan. I will get on top of that. That's not even the podcast picture today, Megan. It's of Santa Barbara, Megan, which you should go visit, Megan. It's also in California, although about 8 hours south of us, south of Half Moon Bay. I used to go, I went to school for 4 years, went and graduated with a BA in communications, and thus I am communicating to you now from UC Santa Barbara. That's where I met Sean Hannity, who does the talk show, who's way more popular than me, but who does not do anything nearly as freeform as I do, my friend, or as stream of thought as I. For all he says over and over again is Trump is great, Nancy Pelosi needs to die. That's what he says over and over again. Good for him. But I met him years ago. He was actually quite nice back then. I don't know how he is now. I've never seen him since. But so I was at UCSB getting my degree, and I used to have to drive through Santa Barbara every day. I would go to, and this is a picture of the harbor in Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara. And my dad and I used to walk out on the pier in Santa Barbara. And if you ever see the Batman movie, not the one with Michael Keaton or all the other people, the Adam West one, they made a movie that shows regularly on TV on one of the distant channels way off in the high number stratosphere. And there is a scene where Batman is trying to get rid of a bomb. And he's running around on this pier, this huge bomb with a fuse on top. And he's running around, trying to get rid of this. And like at one point, he's trying to throw it off the pier. But then there's a bunch of ducks in the water. And he's running, and then he stops and looks at the camera and goes, some days you just can't get rid of it. I didn't do it right. Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb, is what he says. But he does it in the perfect Adam West way, and it was probably the funniest thing he ever did on screen. The late, great Adam West. But that's neither here nor there, anywhere up there. I went to Santa Barbara about 13 years ago. This is what this picture is from, with my then brother-in-law. He's still a good friend. And he had this super hot girlfriend. I won't go into any more detail than that, but she and him had just met. They were so in love. They were kissing and smooching the whole time we were there. And I took this picture, not of them kissing and smooching, but just of the marina there, the Santa Barbara Harbor Marina. And you can see that at mikesdailypodcast.com and listen to past interviews with musicians that I have done. And as Kevin was saying, back to that, not Santa Barbara, but the other saint, Santa Patrica, St. Patrick's Day. He said, that's what we're getting sick because we don't build up our immunities anymore. That's how come the flu got so bad. Well, that's not what they said on NPR. They said it was just a strain that they just didn't give us the right vaccine for last year. So, at any rate, my point being, now I'm lost here at Café Anyway. Oh, this is the other thing I discovered this weekend, was that when I'm talking and in an actual bar, unlike the Café Anyway, which I'm sorry, if you didn't know. Anyway. It's not a real place, but it is.
Oh, my.
It is alive in our hearts and minds. Hearts and minds.
All right.
But it is in an actual situation where there's a lot of people talking and loud music playing. I can't operate in that. I can't talk in that. It's very difficult. I have to be right next to you and talk to you because I'm not good at screaming and I lose my voice. And I've found that out over the years and years and years. When I was a kid, I could scream. Well, I'd get hoarse then too, but enough about horses and about my weekend job where I'm a freaking Band-Aid and horses and the Taking Advantage portfolio and thinking back to Santa Barbara and Lucy and Ethel and the expression that I hate the most. Like, let's say I replaced you and took care of your job. I did something in your stead. Have you said that? Have you ever said that? In your stead? Instead of saying instead, you say in your stead. I don't know. I've heard that expression, and it's not like I hate it, but it's just in your stead. I can't say it right. I'm going to work on that. No, I'm not. And then finally, there was a guy that I work with. I've talked about him before. I'm not going to say his name, but he does a podcast. He got into podcasting because of me. And we've known each other for like 20 years. And he said to me, because he's really all about himself.
He's a showboat. He's a grandstander.
And he'll admit that. He'll be the first person to admit that. He actually asked me this past weekend, hey, how do I get onto this? How do I get this? And he points at that thing on Google and Bing on the search engines. When there's someone who's really popular, they put off to the right-hand side of the screen, like Michael Keaton, and they show a picture and they show all the movies that he's been in. He goes, how do I get that? This guy that I know, who is not popular. He seems to think he's really popular because he's got a lot of downloads of his podcast, even though he's the one who's doing the downloading. Yeah, every single computer that he has or has access to, he has downloading his podcast to make the numbers show to the actual podcast people. He's totally cheating. But yeah, so he asked me that, and every time I see him, he makes me go, what did he just do? What he did? What? Say what? Whatever. It makes the world go round, doesn't it? There, Andrea Zafiraku. That's a cool name. Wins $1 million Best teacher in the world. A teacher at a Brent secondary school has won the prestigious... Where's Brent? Is that in England? Oh, that's in England. The Global Teacher Prize. She won and picked up $1 million at a ceremony in Dubai yesterday. Stephen Hawking. 2 weeks before his death, he predicted the end of the universe. Well... I'm sorry, if you're like 18 and you're predicting the end of the universe, I understand that. But if you're like close to death and you're predicting the end of the universe, you might just be predicting your end of the universe. That's all I'm saying. I don't put any Stephen Hawking, brilliant man, but... Hey, a candidate for the Maine House of Representatives who insulted 2 survivors of the shooting in Parkland, Florida, has dropped out of the race after backlash to his comments. According to multiple reports, this is Leslie Gibson, a Republican, had been running unopposed for a state house seat, unopposed, in Maine. And on Twitter account that he has since been, on a Twitter account that he's since deactivated, he insulted Emma Gonzalez and David Hogg, 2 students who survived the massacre. Gonzalez and Hogg have since become prominent advocates for gun violence prevention. And Gibson wrote, there is nothing about the... Oh my gosh. She called her Emma Gonzalez, a skinhead lesbian. What? There's nothing about this skinhead lesbian that impresses me, and there's nothing that she has to say unless you're a frothing at the mouth moonbat. And then he called Hogg a bald-faced liar. Good riddance for dropping out. Oh my gosh. Wow. Leslie Gibson. Man, as we go outside a Café Anyway, we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcaster Valley. Woo! That's just so all kinds of wrong. Well, at any rate, hey, it's been fun. I hope you enjoyed today's Absurdity. Next show, it's going to be the wonderful Benita, the disgruntled fiddle player and the brewmaster. How about that? Enjoy the podcast picture from Santa Barbara from 12 years ago, where off camera there are several kisses going on. You know what? This world needs more smooching and kissing, doesn't it? It needs more love. That's how I shall end the show.
Hi there, Mike. How are you?
Ooh, and that was episode 1583. 1583. 1983. That was a good year. That was Men at Work had their big hit Down Under. Who cares?
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!